Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now January 12th of 2021, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga and The Mandalorian Season 2, a lot of fans have been very much intrigued with what Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have in store for the Star Wars fans around the entire globe. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the biggest problem with the sequel trilogy, obviously, was the treatment of Luke Skywalker and Rey specifically, as well as Palpatine. A lot of people had different problems with those different aspects of the sequels, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy. Now, given that Jon and Dave are doing everything in their power to really bring Star Wars back on its feet, which, by the way, they are doing successfully, we already witnessed what they did with The Mandalorian Season 2's finale, which, I must add, was absolutely stunning. Very well put into place here for the fans, and just magical, to say the least. I mean, it really brought back memories to how fans felt during Star Wars Legends era, back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Now, when we go ahead and check out what Jon and Dave have in store for this new Star Wars universe, this really is quite something, because they're not only busy with projects, but they're also busy with major retcons that are about to be applied to either the sequels, prequels, and original trilogy of Star Wars. Not just that, but also other aspects of the franchise overall as well. Now, the one major thing that Jon and Dave are working on is the concept of Rey Palpatine, and literally ending that concept and turning it into something new from the Rise of Skywalker film. Now, specifically, of course, what's really intriguing about this is that given that The Mandalorian Season 3 is now fully in development, it's described that both Disney and Lucasfilm are focused on their new universe moving ahead. Now, it's described, however, that both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are hard at work on applying major retcons to the Star Wars franchise. It's described that Jon and Dave have a plan to end the current version of Rey Palpatine from Episode 9, to create a new concept of Rey Palpatine that will eventually become a legitimate Skywalker in the canon. It's described that the first step of doing this by Favreau and Filoni is by completely changing the concept of Rey's parents and who they really are. Filoni and Favreau are set to make Palpatine's son a legitimate son of Palpatine instead of a clone through gene splicing, and one who was once the actual apprentice of Emperor Palpatine during his time on the world of Exegol. Not just that, but Filoni and Favreau are about to set a plan in place that will end Rey's bloodline as a Palpatine, where once Ben Solo vanishes on the world of Exegol as he dies, his essence traveled into Rey, completely erasing her connection to Emperor Palpatine and transforming her DNA into Skywalker blood, essentially. This is Favreau and Filoni's plan to literally end Rey Palpatine after the events of Episode 9, in order to make her a literal Skywalker 100% by blood and DNA, through Ben Solo's life force becoming one with Rey. Now, again, let me just stop right here. This, to me, sounds very strange. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work once it's applied to the official canon. I do agree that I like the concept of Ben Solo's life force traveling into Rey. The thing that just sounds very off to me is how it transforms her blood and DNA into becoming essentially a Skywalker over the Palpatine bloodline. That's a very interesting aspect of how Ben and Rey become one, where she becomes an actual Skywalker. Again, this is Filoni and Favreau's way to end Rey Palpatine, quite literally, and replacing her entire bloodline and DNA makeup as a Skywalker. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it sounds very strange. I'm not going to say that I hate it right away, but I will just say that it sounds very odd. This is actually going to be labeled as a new type of Force power that's going to be connected to the netherworld of the Force, so that'll be interesting to see. One thing I will say about Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni is that they're very ambitious, they're very creative when it comes to establishing different ideas into the current Star Wars Legends that's going to be revived, as well as original content that's going to be made, such as this. Now, again, is this major retcon a necessity to Star Wars? Is it really all that necessary to go through with this? That, of course, is all up to interpretation. You know, a lot of fans out there may very well think that this is a must-have situation by Jon and Filoni, of course, but not just that. I feel that, you know, maybe it could very well transform into something greater. Obviously, we do know that they are planning to create Rey's children as Cade and Kira Skywalker. We talked about this before in the past, of how once she becomes a legitimate Skywalker, she's going to be able to have children very much similar to how Shmi Skywalker gave birth to Anakin. So that's going to be interesting as well. The fact that Rey becomes a Skywalker, and that is done through Ben Solo's life force, transforming now her bloodline and DNA makeup. But it's not necessarily like it's Ben and Rey's children per se. It's that Ben's life force turns her into a Skywalker, allowing her to have children like Shmi, if that makes sense. That's the overall approach right now. It seems like they've really tried hard to make it work, that she can become a real Skywalker, to have real Skywalker children. But we will have to wait and see how the fans actually accept this or not in the near future. So, like I've said before in the past, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.